first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out. See a lot of familiar faces up in here, people that have supported me through the years, and it means a lot to myself personally. I ain't gonna speak for Soren, but I'm sure it means a lot to him too, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we put a lot into what we do, and I'm new to this space, man. So I'm like, kind of, Soren's my OG right now, in the thespian world and in the writing world, and so I'm taking my cues from him, man. The idea of this event came from him, and I was absolutely with it as soon as he said it. Like, yeah, let's do that, and immediately as soon as we can, and it came together pretty naturally, pretty organically. He has. First, let me go to the beginning. Soren did our first major interview as the Outlaws post the death of Tupac Shakur, and it was pretty close to after that happened, maybe a year or two after that happened.
I think it was 99.
And it's absolutely the worst interview we did as a group. Like, it's a cringe moment for me now. I was telling Soren, and I was thanking him because he showed us love. Like, another journalist looking to get ahead could have really took that and spun it any kind of way he wanted to. We was drunk, high, still in our feelings, and said some things that now I would never say on camera or to a reporter or to anybody, if that's how I really felt. And Soren, being a solid journalist, didn't use that and take advantage of that. And I always appreciated him for that. And that's why we're here to this day, because he's solid and does what he does from an organic place and from his heart.
Yeah, it's because I love it, man. And that's why I did that interview for XXL back then. And it was a great opportunity because, one, I love the music. And two, obviously they were reeling with the death of Tupac, but also just loving and respecting the music and everything that I knew about it. I knew what I've always tried to do as a writer is bring the humanity and bring the personal aspect of it. And so when I got a chance to meet all the Outlaws and talk to them and go to the studio, we were together several hours. This is back when you actually got to spend time with the artists and really build with them and stuff. And that's what really struck me, was what I thought it was gonna be. Because reading about them and knowing about them from afar and then getting to know them, even though I knew they had been smoking and drinking quite a bit, it was very enlightening in so many ways, and I got a lot of great feedback from the article, not only from them individually and collectively, but from XXL, and then a lot of the people that wrote in to say they really liked the article and stuff. And I do remember y'all didn't like the photos, though.
The photos was terrible. Hard work, bold.
But I remember...
But I take, we took responsibility for that. It wasn't,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that was a great experience, and we've stayed in touch. I've been on his radio show. He's been on my Unique Access Entertainment YouTube channel, and we just maintained a friendship and stayed in touch almost, I'd say, the whole 25 plus years now.
Pretty much the whole time.
And he supported me a lot with History of Gangster Rap, one of the books I have here, and Noble as well. So just being, an extended member from afar of the Outlaws has been pretty awesome, just to get to know them and spend time with them personally and professionally over the years. And, as I was working on my books, I just hit E.D.I up. I was like, yo, man, I need to buy a copy from you. I see you promoting your book. And so we met up, and I was like, man, I'd given him History of Gangster Rap, but I was like, man, with COVID and everything, we had spoken and done Zooms and stuff, but I hadn't seen him actually in about 2 years or so because of COVID. So I was like, let's meet up real quick. I'll give you my newer books and, get yours. And when we were just talking in the parking lot, because I was going to do an event for my daughter, I was like, hey man, we should have you ever done a book signing or an author Q&A? Sometimes people really show up, sometimes they don't, but let's try to do one. So that led us to today.
And we're here now with y'all We're gonna definitely do a Q&A. But me and Soren are gonna chop it up about each other's books
Yes.
for a little bit before we start the Q&A.
Yeah. So E.D.'s book, Street Fame, has got several copies if you don't already have it. But I was very intrigued, one, that it's a fiction. I'd say probably largely inspired by a lot of real world events. So for you with a book, what made you want to take the route of fiction as opposed to writing a memoir or a biography?
I mean, it's real simple. Everybody do a memoir, you know what I mean? And that would have been the easiest route to go, you know what I mean? Because of my history with one of the most famous icons in music at this point. Real easy to do that. And maybe I will do that, but right now, where I'm at personally, I feel like if I was to do that, then that's just telling everybody, just know me for that. You know what I mean? And that was never my goal, to just be known as the dude that rapped with Tupac. And so, let me do something different. A couple of my partners already did it, you know what I mean? Moo put his book out, great memoir, you know what I mean? His story is an incredible story from where he started, how his life started, and where he's been able to take it to. It's nothing short of amazing, you know what I'm saying? It's a testament to like really changing your life. And those of us in the room that knew Moo then and know him now know how incredible that story is. Fatal was working on his before he tragically lost his life. He didn't get a chance to see it, you know, come out personally, but it got released posthumously, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just not gonna, you know, continue that. And so, this idea came from a conversation I had with my uncle. Yeah, you know, and we was just, you know, just having a conversation, man. He was just like, yo, I think some of these cats that's rapping is working with the police.
Well, that was the thing when I started reading Street Fame, and I highly recommend everybody get it if you don't have it already tonight. But that was the thing that shocked me, is it being not only a police officer is the main character, but it's told from his perspective. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't want to give away too much of the story, but one thing I thought was interesting is in the beginning of Street Fame, he talks about he doesn't understand how an officer could become corrupt. And that was not only interesting, but since as the story progresses, you see a lot of different things happen. Why was that important for you to put early on in the book, him saying like, oh, I don't see how a cop could do the wrong thing or get caught up like that?
It's just the journey. It's the character arc. I wanted to really show him as a good dude, you know what I mean, who really meant well. He just happened to also love hip hop, you know what I mean? And I've ran into people like that. I've actually ran into cops that love our music. You know what I'm saying? Even though at times we're not really that fond of cops on our music. We're not out here bigging cops up. But I've had cops come up to me and be like, yo, I fuck with y'all music since I was in. And so I know that type of person actually exists. It's not that far-fetched for somebody who's working in law enforcement to actually, you know, love hip hop. And this character is a good dude and wants to do good and actually wants to help clean up hip hop to make hip hop the way he fell in love with it. He feels like it's getting dirty and he wants to be a part of the people that help clean it up.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is he references early on about the criminal element that has long been associated with the music industry, way before rap existed, and you mentioned several examples in there, but why do you think that the businesses have such an overlap at times?
I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not I'm not a historian on that level, but I do know from what I've always heard and from what I've seen personally, they kind of run parallel. You know what I mean? And then sometimes they intersect, and it's not always a good thing when they do it. Sometimes they intersect and it makes magic. You know what I mean? Like labels like Ruthless Records and Death Row and Def Jam, they came out of the, you know, the hood. And it intersected and it made magic. But sometimes they intersect and it's, you know, we have tragedy. And it's not always, you know, a good outcome. And the book talks about that. The book definitely gets into that.
Yeah. And then there's the CEO who has a lot of similarities to some CEOs we can imagine who might have been directly or indirectly inspired by that. So how did you, as a writer, do the balance of referencing or paying homage to some real stuff, but then also not making it like a biography of that person?
Yeah, I didn't use nobody's real name, you know. That's really that simple. I just didn't use nobody's real name. And that character, King, who I'm talking about, is a combination of, you know, it's a combination of a few CEOs that we all, you know what I mean? When you read the book, or if you have read the book, you'll be able to see that there's some similarities, and not just one, but many.
Right. It's a composite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said too, writing the book, now that you have it done and you know, you've had response to it online and different things, what did you notice differently about writing this versus writing songs? Because you can write a song or you can write a verse, or that's a very quick process by comparison to writing a book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, music for me has always came pretty easy. This is not. Writing and you know, staying with the character, characters have to have a storyline, and then, you know, there's a B storyline to that character, and sometimes the B characters, it's a lot. It's not an easy thing to get to the end, and that book took me a while to do. It wasn't something that I just was able to do. You know, it took me the better part of a year to really finish that book. And, you know, but what I do like after the book is done is books last longer than music. Music is very come and go right now these days. You know, people get into your project for about 90 days, and then if you're not hitting them with another one, you pretty much can be forgotten. You know what I'm saying? Books you can promote over time. You know, this right here doesn't go anywhere. And a story, if you have a good story, can last a little bit longer. So I do like that part of it. It takes a little bit longer to get done, but it lasts longer.
Yeah. And I was also intrigued because in there, the main character has a lady friend that he befriends and then develops a relationship with. But when you do talk about their relationship, it's not salacious, it's not explicit, especially early in the book. So what made you want to take more of a, as you're describing their relationship and their development, it's not a R or X-rated thing, it's more of a PG way that you describe it?
That's a great question, Soren. Goddamn, you threw me a curveball with that one. I think I was just trying to basically just show you how the music industry, everything that comes along with the music industry, the lights, the cameras, the sex, drugs, the rock and roll, it can turn a person out if they're not mentally strong. You know what I mean? And even some of the strongest can be turned out. And so, yeah, in the beginning, he got this good girl. She's, you know, wants to be an attorney. You know, sounds like she's perfect. But there's a dark side to him that he's not acknowledging. He's suppressing to be this good guy and appear to be this good guy. And we all do that in certain kind of ways. We all wear a mask. And then, you know, it's only a few of us that know us once that mask is off. And, you know, he ends up falling in love with the woman that accepts him when the mask is off. Because the one he really, you know, the one he started with, she probably wouldn't want to have nothing to do with that. Or at least he thinks so. Maybe she would. He doesn't take that chance to find out. You know what I mean? It's this other woman that comes in, and that's the one that he ends up.
Right. No, it's very interesting. So definitely everybody make sure. So obviously, a good thing would be: are you having you have ideas for more books? Or are you planning on getting more into fiction?
Yeah, I definitely have ideas for more books, whether they be fiction, whether it be a memoir, maybe, you know, like Gucci Man's Guide to Greatness, you know, maybe something along the line, but it'll definitely be, what I want to definitely do is, you know, keep people interested and not do what's expected, at least when it comes to that. Because you already know me for music and you know what to expect from me, expect from me.
And you're obviously still making music, and I'd say it's at a very more elevated intellectual level and very reflective at this point. So as you're continuing your career and establishing one as a fiction writer, but also still making music, how have you found each one is inspiring the other a little bit?
Damn, another good one, Soren. Another great question. I feel like they both kind of are the same. They both come from the same place for me. I've always been a creative writer. You know, that's how I express myself. Even before I was making music, I would write short stories. I would write poetry. I would, you know what I mean? That's just what I did. And so writing a book and writing a song have similarities in the sense that you have a beginning, you have a middle, and you have an ending. You know what I'm saying? Music, you got the beginning, you got the intro, you got the verse, you got the chorus. You're taking people on a journey. And writing a book is no different. You know what I mean? It's just, like I said, it's a little bit longer process, a little bit more tedious, and you have to, especially when you're dealing with characters, you can, you know, write a character off into oblivion, and now everybody's like, yo, what happened to this guy? So you got to be able to stay focused on all your characters, and it's definitely more difficult than music in that regard, but the reward I'm seeing right now is just as sweet.
Well, there it is. All right.
Now let's talk about, speaking of, you know, books, and let's talk about, before we get into your books, let's talk about your journey as a writer.
Okay.
And specifically when you started writing books. The first one was?
The first book I wrote was The History of Rap and Hip Hop, and that came out in 2006. And that was basically a textbook for middle school students, because there was a series called The Music Library, and I had to basically, in not that many words, summarize the whole. The publisher didn't understand the difference between rap and hip hop, and I explained to them, we need to have rap and hip hop in the title so that it's not the history of hip hop, because then you have to put in all the different elements. I said, if we put rap and hip hop, the people that know, or when their parents, because the book was basically for libraries for middle school students. So when their parents would see it, I didn't want them to be like, oh, this isn't legitimate, because it's not the history of hip hop. It's more about rap, which it was, but I used hip hop throughout it to show the elements with the graffiti and the breakdancing or b-boying and the DJing, and I wove that throughout, but that's more of the supporting character or characters, because rap, of course, is the most dominant element of hip hop culture. So I wanted to show the elementary and middle school students that were going to read this book really a wider range of everything, but then keep the artists that they may have been familiar with, especially at the time, a focus of the book, so it maybe was more interesting to them, so that they would learn about the Cool Hercs or some of the B-Boys or the Rocksteady crew, or Cool Herc, or these different people that they might not know about or care about, but if they saw when they were flipping through, like at the time 50 Cent or whoever was in there, oh, well, I know who that is, who are these other people? And that was the first book I did, and I got a lot of good feedback on that, And Ice Cube actually told me a couple of his sons really liked it. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah. Because I gave Cube a copy one time when I was with him. And he was like, yeah, man, my boy said that's a real good book. I was like, thanks, Cube. Appreciate it.
And so after that, first, this is gonna seem like a question with an obvious answer, but why do you feel like it's important to document hip hop from the beginning all the way to now? And also, would you consider yourself a historian of as opposed to just an author?
Well, why it's important, I think, because one, I love the culture, and it's basically been my favorite thing in the world since I was 10 years old, growing up in Maryland. So I grew up right in between Baltimore and D.C. So in D.C. we had go-go, in Baltimore we had house music, but I loved rap and hip-hop culture, and it's just my favorite thing. So when I started learning about it, I wanted to learn everything I could about it.
I can't believe you ain't fallen in love with go-go.
Well, I did.
Oh, all right.
In fact, my dad actually told me a couple times he thought
You been
I
to a
liked,
couple of them?
many, but he told me he thought I liked go-go better than rap, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go-go's phenomenal. If
Go-go is phenomenal.
if you had the benefit of being there in the, well, I was going to more shows in the early 90s, but that was the prime time, especially live.
Live is live is hard to compete with go-go live.
Period.
I'm gonna come clean.
Of anything,
Yeah.
of any music,
Of any music genre.
period.
But yeah, so back to, why you feel like it's important to be documented.
But I thought it was important because I noticed when I was growing up, a lot of the kids I was around, or my peers, my kids I was growing up with, I realized when I would tell them, like, oh, this person had used this sample before, or oh, when he raps this, he's referring to this other song that somebody else had made, or like the diss tracks that were going back and forth. I noticed my friends were always very intrigued by that. They're like, really? And then I would play them like, oh, King T had used this before, and I'd play him to King T. Oh, wow, I didn't know that was King T had used that first, or Above the Law had used it first, or whatever it was. And I just remember that always was so like shocking to them. And then I was like, well, this is important to them, it's important to me. And then when I would read the magazines, I noticed sadly it didn't seem as important in a lot of the magazines I was reading coming up. So I had the idea, if I ever started writing, or as I was trying to figure out how to be involved in rap, I wanted to bring that same level of care and passion to what I was writing, but also when I got to meet the artists, which is something I dreamt about since I was 12, is getting to interview, or at the time, hang out with the artists so I could talk to them and really get to know them, because I had so many questions and so many things listening to the lyrics. And then later, as I started going to shows and going to events and then getting to meet them, I realized that they were very interested in the questions I'd ask because they had never been asked that question. Or, oh man, you really listened to the track 14 on my 15 cut album? I was like, yeah, I listened to all 15, and boom, we were talking about it. So it was very important to me because I felt like there's so much that doesn't get discussed that's very important, that influences 100%. Everything that we're hearing now, that is so valuable. And like I was just talking to, I'm good friends with Project Pat, and I was talking to him about earlier this week that Schoolboy Q had just sampled Chicken Head on the Blue Lips album that just came out. And just that a song from 99, 2000 is now being sampled for the umpteenth time in 2024. It's like, if you only listen to Schoolboy Q and you don't know Chicken Head for some reason, but it's like this music it's so layered and so tied into so many things that came before it, as it influences so much that's coming after it. So
the ultimate recycler is hip
exactly.
hop, 100%. And so, historian. Do you feel would you give yourself that title? Yes or no?
I let other people say it,
And the reason why I asked that, because now you've gotten to this place. You did the History of Gangster Rap, which, if you don't have it, is a beautiful, like, I got this on my table at the crib. It's a beautiful book, inside and out. One of my favorites. And you've done that, the history of gangster rap, but now you starting to document actual hip hop guys, hip hop stars, icons, their whole journey as well. And how did that come about? Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them?
It's been both. With Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness, after I did the History of Gangster Rap, I was referred to a book agent, and the book agent was like, Gucci Mane's not gonna work with the dude anymore that did his autobiography. They're not seeing eye to eye, but there's this idea of doing an inspirational book or things. And since Gucci is, at the time, especially was so prolific on his self-help stuff on Twitter at the time, the idea was to take a lot of those things and make them into chapters and make them into this book, which became the Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness. And they were like, well, what would be your idea? So I just wrote out my idea and they sent it to Gucci and he loved it. He was like, man, this is a go. So then it was during COVID, so we just did it all over the phone. And basically I would look through his things or notes from the previous time or two we had talked and just started getting a lot of these things that he used to transform his life. So if you know, back in the day, he was close to 300 pounds. He was doing all kinds of drugs. He was a maniac. He'll tell you himself, but he was getting in all kinds of legal trouble. And basically when he was incarcerated, for the last time that he was incarcerated, he just realized, like, what am I doing with my life? And then he started reading and started exercising and eating better and got off lean and all the drugs he was doing. And those served as what the foundation for what was the Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness. These, truisms or things that he learned along the way from his father or different people that he used to change his life. And basically, as we see now, he's ripped, he's in good shape, he's married, he's got kids and all these different things with his wife that he's very proud of. And he's, basically done a total 180, totally changed his life and has become a very, inspirational dude. And
so much so they thought he was a clone.
Exactly.
Like people started really like.
Yeah, we talk about that in
like
in
that
Gucci
just started
Mane.
getting steam. Like it's like, yo, that's not Gucci Mane. It's a clone.
Yeah. And
but it really can't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's exhibit A of being able to really change her life.
100%.
And I didn't know him before. I talked to him once or twice before we did the book, back when he was heavy in the mix of a lot of his drug and legal issues. And he's like a totally different dude. Totally.
I lived in the South during the early Gucci Mane days. And
he's about it. Like for real.
100%.
There's no doubt it.
Yeah.
Some of my boys from Atlanta they would tell me like, yo man, that's not a dude you want to mess with.
Yeah, I mean, he beat a 187.
Yeah, he did.
Like, cause he was justified. You know what I mean? And so that's right there.
And then
he was known for really living that life and to see where he's been to and me personally being able to do business and see the Gucci Mane then and the Gucci Mane now is definitely.
It's like a different person.
Juicy J's book.
Yeah, that's a totally.
Which I'm about to get into that real quick.
That's a totally different thing because the irony was I known Juice and all 3-6, but especially I interacted the most with Paul and Juicy, and I started knowing them in '97, and then I went to Memphis in '98 when they were recording the Tear the Club Up Thugs album. That's the one that has Slob on My Knob on it, for those that didn't know. But the one that blew up, they had done it before, or Juice had done it earlier, but the version that became super popular. So I went with them to Memphis while they were making that album. So I got to see them make it, and then I just, connected with them and just had a great relationship with them and had interviewed them and done dozens, if not scores of articles on them and written about them extensively because I think they're phenomenal. And basically Juice's cousin that works with them doing some management stuff had read Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness.
Oh, okay.
and he had hit Juice like, hey man, we should do a book. I know this author. And Juice was like, nah, Soren's my guy, but hit him up. So Ray is Juice's cousin. Shout out to Ray Brady for making it happen. But Ray hit me up and he's like, hey man, we read your book, Gucci Mane Guide to Greatness. Would you ever want to do a book with Juice? And I was like, of course. I've been knowing Juice the whole time. And so basically, once we got on the phone, Juice was like, yeah, I think when I told him I knew you, he didn't understand what I was telling him. But so that's how that got started. And it was amazing because I've known Juice since 97, 98, it was very easy and comfortable talking to him, and it just flows so smoothly because I've known him so long and hung out with him in different states and at different events in Illinois and Tennessee, out here multiple times, and like, you know, going to festivals with them and stuff. So that was just, you know, a full circle moment to see them from almost the very beginning of their career when they were on Selecto Hits out of Memphis to then, you know, winning Oscars.
Legendary.
And being true icons of the game.
Legendary.
Yeah.
And not only just in the South, and they had been legendary for years in the South, to, like you say, eventually being Oscar winners. I'm like 75% through the book. Crazy.
It's crazy.
Like, and so I just had a conversation with Soren prior to us getting in here, and basically the conversation went like, Soren, you want a drink? Nah, you know I don't drink. Oh, no, I didn't know that. You know, we never really hung out like that. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do nothing. So I'm looking at Soren like, how the fuck did you hang around with these dudes? Because I'm reading the book and it's like sniffing coke over here, lean over here, weed over here. Like, they was really
they were
rock fucking stars. How did you be around that and stay?
Yeah. I remember one time I went to the...
I'm just curious, man, because I'm like...
One time I was in Memphis
amazing.
with them, and I was with several of the members, including Gangster Boo, and I was just talking to her in the club, and I noticed all these girls kept coming up to me, but I was the only white dude in this hood club in Memphis with 3-6, so I then realized, like, oh, they must think I have a lot of money. Because I'm with 3-6 and Gangster Boo's talking to me all the time, and that was a interesting night. But the reality is, I just have never done any of that stuff, so it was never tempting. But I will say, you know, rest in peace to Lord Infamous. But I remember one time I was with him in particular, and I was like, I need to leave because this is about to be something insane is about to happen.
His name comes up a lot in the book.
And I did not want to be around whatever was about to happen.
Yeah, rest in peace to him. Rest in peace, of course, to Gangsta Boo,
our mutual friend. Yeah.
Our mutual friend, somebody I really loved and grew to love. You know, just running into her out here and just a good person. And it's unfortunate, very unfortunate, the way it ended for her.
And when you read
when
you read how Juicy found out about that toward the end of the book, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're not gonna spoil it for everybody.
That, but
definitely get you a copy. Get you a copy of the Juicy J book, of all Soren's book. But I wanna before we move on from that, as far as the Juicy J book and the Gucci Mane book, I know the number one question I got about my book was, hey man, did you write all of that yourself or did you have help? And I be telling people like, nah, I really all of that myself. I didn't have no help. How much of this is their pen and yours?
It's all their words or thoughts or ideas, and I make it into a story. So, you know, I'm the one writing. I'm basically taking what they're saying and writing it into a story / book form, but I'm not inventing anything. It's all what they said, or, you know, that type of stuff. I'm giving it structure and a flow and making it more coherent as far as, you know, a story. Because, you know, the great thing, especially with Juice, since I've known him so long, be talking about a story, and then he'd be like, "Oh man, remember this?" And then we start talking about something else. We're in chapter 7 talking, and then we're talking about chapter 4 or something. So you can't, when you're doing that. Fortunately, since I've been able to write for a long time now, I know how to do it in my mind to know like, oh, this needs to go over here, but don't stop right now. Even though we're way past that, I know like, oh, here's how I can integrate it and make it flow into the story, even though that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Sometimes it's, it's just a story and it doesn't end up being in the book. But when it really works, and because I know Jay so well, like it works extremely well because it's just a level and a friendship and a relationship that we've had for so long to where, he can just tell me all this stuff and I would just tell him like, look, man, you're going to read the book before anybody else. So just tell me whatever you want. And if we need to take it out or we need to modify it or whatever, that's what we're going to do. So, it's all about getting the story and then making it into a great story, and it's all them. I just hope.
I love how y'all
bring
had
it to
that in
life.
common, the Len Bias thing in common.
Oh yeah, Len Bias.
That was when we talked about that before we got in here, that was interesting that that Len Bias situation had the same effect on both of y'all. Because despite all the rock and roll shit that they was doing, Juicy J kind of was probably one of the more straighted.
He was the
ones
only
in the
one.
group.
He was the only one of
Which
the 5.
is completely opposite of what I thought. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know them like that. I thought Juicy J was the one that was, but he was the one that was.
Yeah, he's the
You
only.
got to read the book, man. It's great fucking book so far, man.